Imagine a moment that would change everything. A weary Italian soldier steps from a dusty transport vessel onto American dock in New York Harbor. The year is 1943. His clothes hang in tatters. His boots show holes worn through months of desert marching. Grime covers every inch of his skin. He smells of sweat, sand, and defeat. Hours pass. This same man stands beneath cascading hot water. Steam rises around him. Soap lathers between his fingers. Clean towels wait on wooden benches nearby. The shower facilities gleam like palace bathrooms from his wildest dreams back home. Reality struck harder than fiction ever could. 51,000 Italian prisoners of war discovered themselves on American soil during those war years. Their responses to what Americans viewed as ordinary cleanliness went far beyond simple surprise. Cultural shock hit these men like physical blows. Everything they understood about abundance shifted. Their concepts of dignity transformed completely. What it meant to remain human, even behind prison wire, took on entirely new meaning. Europe burned in 1940. Flames of war consumed nations. Benito Mussolini had cast Italy's future alongside Hitler's Germany. Victory seemed certain to Axis leaders. Swift conquest appeared inevitable. Italian soldiers marched toward war. Many came from impoverished southern villages. Running water represented luxury in their world. Conscripts left homes where indoor plumbing remained fantasy. They carried fascist propaganda in their hearts. They also bore the weight of an underfunded military machine. Equipment failed them regularly. Supplies ran short constantly. North African deserts became their battlefield. Scorching sand burned through worn boots. Tunisia and Libya stretched endlessly before them. By 1943, everything crumbled around these forces. Desert campaigns exposed Italian weaknesses brutally. Enemy forces outgunned them consistently. Superior tactics outmaneuvered them repeatedly. Supply lines stretched beyond breaking points. Surrender often brought relief instead of shame. These defeated soldiers began unexpected journeys across Atlantic waters. Most had only heard whispered stories about America. America housed 425,000 prisoners of war on home soil between 1940 and 1945. Enemy combatants lived within continental United States for the first time since Civil War days. Germans comprised the majority at 350,000 men. Among them lived 51,000 Italians. Their experiences would challenge every assumption about captivity. Treatment exceeded all expectations. The American way of life revealed itself in shocking detail. These weren't hardened Nazi officers. Fanatical true believers didn't fill these ranks. Giuseppe came from Sicily. Electric lights had amazed him into his 20s. Antonio hailed from Calabria. His family's stone house lacked indoor plumbing completely. Marco descended from mountain regions of Abruzzi. Cold streams had provided his only baths throughout life. Ordinary men lived through extraordinary times. They were about to encounter civilization beyond their imagination. Abundance would overwhelm their senses. Dignity would reshape their understanding of human worth. The United States government confronted monumental challenges. How could they house nearly 500,000 enemy soldiers safely? Feeding such numbers stretched resources. Managing them required careful planning. Security couldn't be compromised. Wartime resources demanded protection. Solutions emerged through conversion of existing facilities. Military bases transformed into prison compounds. Abandoned civilian conservation corps camps reopened under new purpose. Hastily constructed installations spread across the landscape. A network of prisoner facilities materialized across 46 states with remarkable speed. Geography played crucial roles in placement decisions. Angel Island sat in San Francisco Bay's rocky waters. Sprawling complexes dotted Texas landscapes. Louisiana plantations housed thousands. New Jersey installations processed even more prisoners. Italian prisoners scattered among 21 camps in 18 states. Strategic logic balanced security concerns with practical necessities. Many camps emerged where infrastructure already existed. Wartime labor shortages created desperate needs for workers in these same locations. Raritan Arsenal in New Jersey needed strongbacks for munitions handling. California's agricultural valleys required field laborers. American boys had shipped overseas to fight. Someone had to replace their labor. Louisiana's sugar plantations faced harvest crises without adequate workers. Thousands of Italian prisoners stepped into these labor gaps. Arrangements proved beneficial for captors and captives alike. Working relationships developed naturally. Mutual respect grew over time. Conditions encountered by these men left them utterly speechless. American military planners followed Geneva Convention guidelines carefully. Their practical needs aligned with humanitarian requirements. Facilities emerged that met hygiene standards exceeding many prisoners' peacetime experiences. Nutrition surpassed their wildest expectations. Accommodation quality amazed even officers from middle-class backgrounds. Salvatore Lombardi climbed down from transport trucks at Camp Hereford in Texas. American sunlight hurt eyes adjusted to ship darkness. What he witnessed defied every expectation about prison existence. Clean wooden barracks lined perfectly straight gravel pathways. Gardens bloomed between administrative buildings. Flowers grew in organized patterns. Most remarkably, shower facilities waited for their use. Not cold water spigots like he'd known. Actual hot shower systems with soap dispensers built into walls. Clean towels hung on metal racks. Historical records document prisoner reactions to that first hot shower experience. More than cleanliness washed over these men. Material abundance beyond their experience enveloped them completely. Introduction to American standards of living began with hot water and soap. Italian prisoners viewed camps as nearly paradise on earth. Instances of mistreatment occurred, especially toward non-cooperative prisoners. Overall treatment remained remarkably humane. Clean barracks housed them comfortably. Hot showers awaited daily use. Food arrived in abundance. Money earned from work could purchase extras at post exchanges. Consider the profound contrast with their backgrounds. These men grew up where running water served entire communities. Hot baths marked special occasions only. Soap remained precious and carefully rationed even before war began. Now, as prisoners in enemy territory, hot water flowed whenever needed. Industrial-grade soap supplied their daily needs. Towels received washing and replacement regularly. Expectations couldn't have differed more dramatically from reality. European prisoners held by Axis forces endured brutal treatment regularly. Overcrowded barracks packed men together. Minimal food barely sustained life. Inadequate sanitation bred disease constantly. These Italians had prepared mentally for hardship. Degradation seemed inevitable. Slow starvation appeared likely. Instead, they discovered facilities surpassing living conditions of many American citizens during Depression years. Standards exceeded what working families enjoyed in their homeland. Comfort levels amazed men accustomed to scarcity. Luigi Benedetto had barbered in Naples before conscription. His two-chair shop served customers who brought personal razors. Hot lather cost carefully hoarded coins. Payment came in small denominations. At the New Jersey POW camp, discoveries overwhelmed his professional experience. Hot running water flowed endlessly from multiple taps. Electric hair clippers hummed with constant power. Sterilization equipment gleamed under bright bulbs. Fresh towels and aprons appeared without limits. Americans had transformed cleanliness into precise science. Regulations governed every aspect of sanitation. Barrack cleaning schedules demanded strict adherence. Shower water temperatures required specific maintenance levels. Bedding changes followed rigid timing protocols. Medical officers conducted regular inspections. Their purpose focused on ensuring health and comfort, not prisoner humiliation. Systematic approaches to hygiene initially baffled many Italian captives. In their homeland, bathing followed seasonal patterns. Availability of hot water dictated timing. Soap scarcity limited frequency. Personal cleanliness held value, certainly. It operated within constraints of tradition and economic reality. Suddenly, expectations demanded regular showering. Clothing maintenance followed American standards. Sanitation protocols seemed almost obsessive in their thoroughness. These requirements felt strange initially. Adaptation came quickly, though. Within weeks of arrival, most prisoners embraced new standards enthusiastically. Discoveries changed more than mere appearance. Feeling truly clean affected morale dramatically. Health improvements became noticeable. Sense of dignity returned after months of battlefield degradation. Letters home faced heavy censorship, but remained revealing. References to feeling human again appeared frequently. Months of combat filth had worn away self-respect. Clean facilities restored it completely. Paradox emerged in these camps that haunted American conscience for decades. Enemy soldiers received treatment exceeding what many Allied prisoners experienced in Axis hands. Men who had fought against Allied forces lived better than some American citizens. The irony wasn't lost on prisoners themselves. Francesco Rossi, a corporal from Milanese infantry regiment, wrote extensively about cognitive dissonance. His training had taught him that Americans were soft and decadent. Fascist ideology celebrated martial virtue that supposedly Americans lacked. Yet these allegedly soft Americans had defeated his forces decisively. Then they treated captives with firmness, combined with humanity, that challenged every propaganda narrative absorbed during his service. Hot showers symbolized something much larger than personal hygiene. American industrial capacity had turned toward human dignity rather than pure destruction. Clean, hot water flowed abundantly enough to offer daily to prisoners. This spoke to infrastructure and wealth levels that most Italians couldn't comprehend. At home, entire families might share weekly baths. Here, individual prisoners could shower privately whenever they wished. Surprises extended far beyond hygiene facilities, though. Camps maintained medical facilities staffed by American doctors and nurses. Italian prisoners received treatment matching care afforded American soldiers. No distinctions existed in medical attention quality. Dental care, previously luxury available only to wealthy Italians, was provided routinely to all prisoners. Glasses received repairs or complete replacement as needed. Chronic conditions that prisoners had endured for years finally received proper treatment. American medical standards applied equally to friend and foe. Dining facilities presented another profound shock to Italian sensibilities. Americans at home dealt with rationing restrictions. Limited meat allocations constrained family meals. Sugar restrictions affected daily life. Careful conservation of fats and oils marked wartime sacrifice. POW camps served meals that seemed lavish by Italian standards of the period. Even under rationing, America appeared abundant compared to wartime Europe. 3 meals daily were guaranteed without question. Portions sized appropriately for working men. Fresh vegetables appeared regularly, even during winter months. Meat, scarce in Italy before the war began, was served multiple times weekly. Coffee, real coffee, flowed daily from kitchen urns. Prisoners could purchase additional food items at camp stores. Wages earned from their labor provided spending money. Camp post exchanges stocked items unavailable in Italy for years. American camp administrators followed both Geneva Convention requirements and practical psychology principles. Well-treated prisoners proved manageable prisoners. Standards established went beyond mere compliance with international law, though. They reflected American values about human dignity. The power of example influenced policy decisions. Camp commanders often came from civilian backgrounds rather than career military service. Teachers brought educational perspectives. Engineers contributed technical knowledge. Businessmen applied practical management skills. All had been called to military service reluctantly. They carried assumptions about how civilized people should live. Standards seeming natural to Americans proved revolutionary to prisoners from economically devastated Europe. Daily routine in these camps established patterns prisoners would remember fondly for decades afterward. Réveillé came at dawn, but not with brutal awakening characteristic of military discipline. Rather, gentle beginnings to days included work assignments, regular meals, recreation time, and personal hours. Lights out came late enough for reading quietly. Letter writing occupied evening hours. Quiet conversations continued after official silence. Not all Italian prisoners embraced circumstances equally, though. American authorities quickly recognized that Italian captives fell into distinct categories requiring different handling approaches. The majority were ordinary soldiers and conscripts. These men felt little loyalty to Mussolini's regime. They welcomed opportunities to renounce Italy and join Italian service units. Cooperative prisoners received full benefits of American hospitality. They moved relatively freely within camp boundaries. Participation in work programs earned them wages. Recreational activities filled leisure hours. Social events organized by local Catholic parishes brought contact with Italian-American communities. Despite initial suspicion, these communities soon embraced prisoners as fellow countrymen. Another group existed, though, the non-cooperatives. These were primarily officers, more educated and deeply indoctrinated in fascist ideology. They refused to renounce allegiance to Italy. They represented about 4,000 men total. Their treatment revealed limits of American tolerance. Non-cooperatives shipped to special facilities at Hereford, Texas. This sprawling 800-acre reservation sat in the middle of nowhere. Here, luxuries available to cooperative prisoners were curtailed significantly. No trips to New York museums occurred. Sunday dinners with Italian-American families were forbidden. Dancing and social outings ceased completely. Only basic requirements of Geneva Convention remained: adequate food, shelter, medical care, and humane treatment. Yet, even at Hereford, standards that amazed Italian prisoners persisted unchanged. Hot showers continued flowing. Clean barracks maintained their gleam. Regular meals arrived on schedule. Medical care never wavered in quality. Punishment for non-cooperation wasn't brutality or degradation. It was simply absence of extras that cooperative prisoners enjoyed regularly. This distinction maintained American principles while addressing security concerns. Officers at Hereford, many educated men from middle-class backgrounds, had time for reflection on their circumstances. They organized educational programs among themselves. Artistic pursuits flourished in isolation. Military discipline remained self-imposed and strictly maintained. Some learned English from willing American guards. Others pursued advanced studies ranging from agriculture to philosophy. Their isolation allowed different kinds of cultural observation. Without distractions of social activities and community interaction, these officers focused on systematic differences between American and European approaches to human dignity, cleanliness, and social organization. Italian prisoners contributed 1 million hours of labor to American war effort. They worked as farm hands, bakers, ditch diggers, dock workers, freight handlers. Trucks and rail cars moved under their efforts. They fulfilled needs of communities where their camps were located. Labor programs created unexpected opportunities for cultural exchange. Italian prisoners worked alongside American civilians. Often these were women and older men, since younger Americans served overseas fighting. Daily contact with ordinary American life provided insights no propaganda could match. Giuseppe Ferraro, working in New Jersey Munitions Depot, marveled at female supervisors who managed complex operations with quiet efficiency. American women possessed technical knowledge and authority, challenging his preconceptions about gender roles. These same women insisted on providing adequate rest breaks, though. Safe working conditions were maintained carefully. Small comforts like coffee breaks made labor feel less like punishment. California farms brought Italian prisoners into contact with Mexican laborers, Chinese immigrants, and elderly American farmers. Diversity of American workforce amazed men from ethnically homogeneous Italian villages. Casual interactions across ethnic lines occurred naturally. Absence of rigid class distinctions they knew from Europe created pictures of American society that fascist propaganda had never prepared them for. $8 per month that prisoners earned might seem paltry today. In 1943, it represented spending money that many had never possessed before. Camp post exchanges stocked items that were luxuries in wartime Europe. Candy, cigarettes, writing materials, books, even art supplies filled shelves. Educated officers bought books frequently. Writing papers and utensils supported correspondence. Supplies for painting, sculpting, woodworking fed creative impulses. Activities filled spare time productively. With these skills, they earned extra money beyond regular wages. Jewelry crafted from scrap metal found ready buyers. Furniture and cabinets showcased their expertise. Painted portraits captured American subjects. Religious frescoes decorated local churches. Often they refused payment for their work, viewing it as gifts to communities that had welcomed them. Economic dimension of prison life created something unprecedented in warfare. Enemy soldiers accumulated wealth while in captivity. Many prisoners saved substantial portions of earnings. Money could be sent home to struggling families. Savings could support eventual repatriation. Psychological impact of having spending power transformed prisoner psychology. Being able to make choices about purchases and possessions restored sense of agency and self-worth. These weren't just captives anymore. They were individuals with economic power and personal dignity. American communities near POW camps responded with mixture of curiosity, suspicion, and eventual acceptance. Complex wartime emotions influenced initial reactions. Italian Americans, particularly in Northeast, faced delicate situations. They worked hard proving loyalty to America. Many served in U.S. military. Suddenly, thousands of Italian enemy soldiers appeared in their neighborhoods. Initial suspicion was natural. Who were these men? What did their presence mean for Italian-American communities already under government scrutiny? Contact developed gradually, particularly through Catholic parishes ministering to prisoners. Attitudes softened remarkably quickly. Sunday dinners in Italian-American homes became regular features of prison life for cooperative prisoners. These events revealed cultural continuities, bridging prisoner-civilian divide. Same foods appeared on tables. Similar dialects filled conversation. Shared religious traditions created bonds. These weren't just enemy soldiers anymore. They were fellow Italians separated by politics and circumstance rather than fundamental differences. California's response to Italian prisoners proved particularly enthusiastic. State's agricultural economy desperately needed workers. Italian prisoners proved skilled and reliable laborers. Beyond economic utility, genuine welcome came from communities seeing Japan, not Italy, as their primary enemy. Winemaking families of Italian heritage found natural affinity with prisoners understanding viticulture. Fishing communities welcomed men knowing seas and understanding nets and boats. Cultural connections were immediate and warm. Relationships extended beyond war's end. California camps invited prisoners to community celebrations. Religious festivals included them naturally. Treatment resembled temporary neighbors more than enemy captives. This acceptance created profound emotional impacts on men expecting hostility and finding hospitality instead. Mail flowing between American POW camps and Italian families provides fascinating insight into prisoner psychological states. Heavy censorship for security reasons couldn't hide amazement at American conditions. Gratitude for treatment received filled every line. Growing affection for captors emerged gradually. Families in Italy struggled with Allied bombing. German occupation brought terror. Severe shortages marked daily existence. They read with disbelief about sons and husbands describing regular meals, warm beds, medical care, and even entertainment. Some relatives suspected letters were propaganda fabricated by Americans for psychological warfare purposes. Reality seemed too good to be true. Could enemy captivity really provide better living conditions than home during wartime? Approaching the midpoint of this remarkable story, consider psychological transformation occurring in these camps. Men who had marched off to war as subjects of fascist regime were discovering democracy in action. Abundance surrounded them daily. Human dignity received respect in most unlikely place, as prisoners in enemy territory. Their letters home weren't just personal communications. They were unwitting testimony to American values in action. But the story was far from complete. As 1944 approached, dramatic events in Italy would complicate everything. New challenges would emerge. Fresh opportunities would appear. Moral dilemmas would test both American principles and Italian loyalties. Hot showers that initially shocked these prisoners became just the beginning of transformation. Their understanding of civilization expanded daily. Concepts of humanity evolved constantly. Their own futures would reshape in ways none could imagine when first stepping off transport ships onto American soil. September 8, 1943. The announcement crackled over radio waves across America and around the world. Static couldn't hide the momentous news. Italy had surrendered unconditionally to Allied forces. Everything changed in that instant. POW camps from California to New Jersey heard the news simultaneously. Italian prisoners gathered around camp loudspeakers. Their faces reflected complex mixtures of emotions. Relief washed over some features. Confusion clouded others. Profound uncertainty about their futures marked every expression. Overnight, status of these 51,000 men had fundamentally changed. They were no longer enemy combatants in legal terms. Potential allies in ongoing war seemed more accurate. Yet they remained prisoners behind the same wire. Same barracks housed them. Same hot showers that had amazed them months earlier still ran. Familiar routine of camp life continued unchanged. Everything had shifted beneath the surface, though. American authorities faced unprecedented situations. Legal status had changed. Practical realities remained constant. These men were still captives. But were they still enemies? The challenge facing American authorities seemed impossible at first glance. Thousands of former enemies now required management and oversight. These weren't simple prisoners anymore. The Italian government's dramatic switch to the Allied cause had created something unprecedented. Co-belligerents changed everything overnight. A new category emerged from political necessity. Former enemies might now be considered friends. The solution developed by American commanders would demonstrate both practical wisdom and principled humanity. This approach would define America's treatment of these unexpected guests. It revealed the character of a nation at war. Every Italian prisoner faced a momentous decision upon arrival. This choice would shape their entire American experience. They could cling to old loyalties and remain traditional captives. Or they could embrace change and join Italian service units. The decision seemed straightforward to most. Traditional captivity meant restrictions and limitations. Cooperation offered something far more appealing. Freedom of movement beckoned. Better living conditions awaited. Most importantly, they could contribute to victory over Nazi Germany. The practical benefits were substantial. The psychological impact proved even more powerful. These men weren't just choosing better treatment. They were choosing their own level of freedom. The oath-taking ceremonies that followed became extraordinary events. Former enemies pledged allegiance alongside their former adversaries. Men raised their right hands in solemn promise. They had been taught that Americans were enemies. Now they swore to work beside them against German forces. These weren't forced conversions born of desperation. Neither were they cynical calculations for personal advantage. Something deeper was happening here. Genuine transformations of loyalty were taking place. Months of experiencing American values in action had changed hearts. The evidence was overwhelming. Treatment with dignity created unexpected results. Respect bred respect in return. One farmer from Tuscany later described his pivotal moment. Antonio Rossi remembered raising his right hand that day. The oath felt natural and right to him. Politics and governments seemed less important than personal experience. He thought about kindness shown by individual Americans. An American sergeant had given him a warm coat. The gesture came when sickness had left him vulnerable. The camp doctor had repaired his broken tooth. No payment was expected or accepted. A Catholic priest had welcomed him like family. These people had revealed America's true meaning through actions. The Italian service units created something remarkable in wartime America. Former enemy soldiers walked freely in civilian communities. They earned regular wages like any other workers. They participated in civilian life under loose military supervision. The contrast with traditional imprisonment was deliberate and stark. Service unit members received passes for town visits. Movie theaters opened their doors to them. Civilian stores welcomed their business. Supervised dating with American women became possible. Their barracks resembled military housing more than prison facilities. Hot showers and clean facilities had initially shocked them. Now these amenities became routine parts of daily life. This represented military employment rather than imprisonment. The transformation was complete and visible to everyone. Freedom of movement created countless opportunities for cultural exchange. Personal relationships developed that would outlast the war itself. Italian prisoners discovered the rhythms of American small-town life. Local churches welcomed them as fellow worshippers. Community events included them as honored guests. They weren't captive enemies anymore. They had become temporary neighbors and friends. Their new status integrated them into America's wartime economy. Agricultural work had been their initial assignment. Now their roles expanded far beyond farming. Defense plants employed their skills. Shipyards welcomed their labor. Military installations benefited from their expertise. Civilian infrastructure projects utilized their talents. Their contribution to America's war effort became substantial and recognized. These men brought more than willing hands to their work. Italian craftsmen discovered new opportunities for their traditional skills. Historic buildings received restoration from master artisans. Churches commissioned artistic works from talented prisoners. Public spaces benefited from their creative abilities. American students learned traditional European techniques from knowledgeable instructors. Engineers and technicians contributed European expertise to American military projects. Their knowledge proved valuable beyond simple manual labor. The Benicia Arsenal in California showcased this cultural integration perfectly. Italian prisoners constructed recreational facilities that served everyone. Bocce ball courts became centers of social life. American personnel joined Italian prisoners in games and conversation. These weren't just sports facilities taking up space. They symbolized cultural integration and mutual respect. They represented the evolving relationship between captives and their captors. They proved that cooperation could replace suspicion and fear. As service unit members gained increasing freedom, they encountered American civilian life during challenging times. Rationing affected every household across the nation. Victory gardens supplemented dwindling food supplies. Women had assumed roles previously reserved for men. Yet even under these wartime constraints, American abundance continued to amaze Italian visitors. Even families dealing with strict rationing possessed luxuries. These seemed incredible to visitors from war-torn Europe. Indoor plumbing was standard rather than exceptional throughout America. Electricity powered far more than simple lighting systems. Refrigerators preserved food efficiently. Washing machines cleaned clothes automatically. Radios brought entertainment and news into homes. Hot water flowed from taps with simple hand motions. No chopping wood was required for heating. No careful conservation was necessary for basic comfort. American approaches to personal hygiene fascinated Italian observers. Daily showers weren't just available to everyone. They were expected as normal social behavior. Clean clothing was a social requirement rather than luxury. This didn't depend on soap availability or rationing restrictions. Dental care was routine health maintenance. It wasn't reserved for crisis intervention only. These standards were maintained even during wartime pressures. They revealed a society that had systematized comfort. Cleanliness had been organized in ways that seemed magical. European eyes had never witnessed such systematic attention to personal hygiene. Beyond basic amenities, prisoners encountered technological innovations everywhere. These previewed America's coming post-war dominance in manufacturing. Automatic washing machines eliminated laborious hand-washing of clothes. Electric appliances reduced cooking from all-day affairs to efficient meal preparation. Air conditioning, though still relatively rare, created artificial climates. These defied natural limitations and seasonal discomfort. These weren't just convenient labor-saving devices. They represented fundamental reimagining of domestic life itself. Italian families had organized entire schedules around manual labor limitations. Resource scarcity had dictated daily routines for generations. American families operated with technological assistance that multiplied productivity. Individual efficiency created leisure time that seemed impossible. European conditions had never allowed such luxury of free time. Perceptive prisoners understood the deeper implications immediately. America hadn't just won military victories through superior equipment. Superior resources alone hadn't guaranteed success either. Something more fundamental was at work here. A society had been created where ordinary citizens enjoyed living standards. European aristocrats might envy such comfortable conditions. The hot showers that initially shocked them were visible symbols. They represented systematic innovation applied to human comfort and dignity. Catholic parishes across America played crucial roles in prisoner integration. Unlike suspicious reception many had initially feared, these men found welcome. Fellow Catholics shared common traditions and cherished values. Sunday Masses became opportunities for cultural exchange and friendship. Personal relationships developed that transcended prisoner-civilian divisions. Parish priests often possessed Italian heritage themselves. They served as bridges between prisoners and their new communities. Social events were organized for mutual benefit. Language instruction was provided to help communication. Networks of support were created to help former enemies. These relationships often continued long after war's end. Lasting bonds were formed between American communities and Italian families. The religious dimension of this integration cannot be overstated here. Shared faith created immediate common ground between strangers. Political divisions were overcome through spiritual unity. National differences became less important than religious brotherhood. Italian prisoners participated fully in American Catholic life. Church suppers welcomed their attendance. Religious festivals included their participation. Community service projects utilized their willing hands. They weren't marginalized outsiders anymore. They had become full participants in community religious life. American women's reactions to Italian prisoners revealed complex attitudes. Masculinity, ethnicity, and romance intersected during wartime in unexpected ways. Many women found these prisoners charming and cultured. They seemed refreshingly different from familiar American men. These prisoners spoke foreign languages with romantic appeal. They possessed artistic skills that impressed local women. They brought European sophistication to isolated American towns. Romance bloomed despite regulations and social complications. American women dated Italian prisoners under official supervision. These relationships challenged conventional boundaries between categories. Enemy and friend became blurred distinctions. Foreign and domestic lost clear meaning. Temporary and permanent became uncertain classifications. Some relationships led to marriages that survived war's end. Repatriation challenges couldn't destroy genuine love. The cultural exchange worked in both directions effectively. Italian prisoners discovered American women's independence and education. They encountered female supervisors in factories and businesses. Women managed enterprises and took leadership roles. Ladies directed community organizations with authority. This challenged traditional Italian concepts completely. Gender roles and family structure were questioned. Old assumptions about women's capabilities were challenged. American society operated differently than European traditions suggested. The creative output of Italian prisoners during American captivity was remarkable. Both quantity and quality of their work impressed everyone. Access to art supplies enabled creative expression. Proper tools allowed skilled craftsmanship to flourish. Leisure time provided opportunities for artistic pursuits. Many prisoners produced works that enriched American communities permanently. Religious frescoes were painted in Catholic churches by gifted artists. These became permanent memorials to cultural cooperation. Furniture and decorative objects were crafted by skilled woodworkers. These found their way into American homes everywhere. Italian artistic traditions entered everyday American life through these works. Portraits were painted by prisoner artists throughout the country. American families and landscapes were captured through European eyes. These artistic contributions represented more than personal expression alone. They constituted cultural diplomacy at its most effective level possible. American communities that might have harbored suspicion found appreciation instead. Hostility toward Italian prisoners was replaced by admiration. Artistic gifts and cultural sophistication were recognized and valued. Art created bridges where politics might have built walls. Suspicion was replaced by mutual respect and understanding. Perhaps no single example better illustrates prisoner transformation than this. The chapel built at Hereford by non-cooperative officers demonstrates everything. These men had been most resistant to American influence. Nevertheless, they created a masterpiece of religious art. Scavenged materials and their own funds made construction possible. 5 Italian prisoners had died at Hereford, unfortunately. This occurred not long before war's end arrived. The cause of their deaths remains unknown today. Disease, accident, or mistreatment might have been responsible. What we know for certain is more important. The remaining officers built a chapel to honor fallen comrades. Construction used scavenged bricks from various sources around the camp. Broken glass was carefully collected and repurposed. Surplus materials were creatively incorporated into the design. Using their own saved money, they purchased quality items. An altar was bought from local religious suppliers. Double French doors were acquired for the entrance. A stained glass window was commissioned from craftsmen. Working with desperate intensity, knowing repatriation was approaching, these officers labored tirelessly. Their chapel was completed in just 3 weeks. It stands proudly in the middle of cornfields today. The structure testifies to Italian officers who lived there. They died on 800 acres where they were stationed. The chapel represented something profound about human transformation. Even the most resistant prisoners had been changed. Their American experience had altered their perspectives fundamentally. They had learned to work within American systems. Materials were purchased through American suppliers. Something permanent was created in American soil. Their final act wasn't defiance, but contribution. They left behind a monument to their presence. Their gradual acceptance of American values was demonstrated clearly. The wages earned by Italian prisoners created unexpected economic phenomena. These men had arrived penniless and completely defeated. Substantial savings were accumulated during their captivity period. Many sent money home to struggling families. Allied bombing and German occupation had created desperate conditions. This financial support provided crucial assistance during Italy's darkest period. Others saved earnings for eventual repatriation home. Post-war Italy would need reconstruction capital desperately. Some invested in American goods for future use. Clothing, tools, and small luxuries were purchased thoughtfully. These would make their return home more comfortable. A few made tentative inquiries about remaining permanently. American opportunities and freedoms attracted their interest strongly. The $8 monthly base wage seemed substantial. Skilled work and artistic commissions supplemented this income. Many prisoners possessed more spending power than ever before. Camp post exchanges reported substantial sales to Italian customers. Local businesses welcomed their patronage and regular spending. These economic relationships created stakeholders in prisoner welfare. American civilian communities benefited from their presence financially. As Allied victory became inevitable in 1945, attention shifted. The complex process of repatriating Italian prisoners required careful planning. Many had been in America for 2 years. Some had stayed even longer than that. Deep attachments to places and people had formed naturally. Ways of life would soon be left behind permanently. The prospect of return created mixed emotions everywhere. Excitement about seeing family again was genuine. Sadness about leaving comfortable lives was equally real. American authorities organized extensive preparation programs for departing prisoners. Language classes helped prisoners improve their English communication skills. Vocational training provided marketable abilities for post-war reconstruction efforts. Educational programs offered everything from basic literacy to advanced training. Most importantly, these programs helped prisoners process their experiences. Understanding of their American period needed integration. Preparation to serve as bridges was essential. Their homeland and temporary host country needed connecting. Many would return to Italy as informal ambassadors. American values would be represented by their testimony. They carried more than memories of abundance. Hot showers and plentiful food were just surface observations. Deeper understanding of democratic principles was more valuable. Individual dignity concepts would influence Italian reconstruction significantly. The hot showers that initially shocked Italian prisoners became powerful symbols. These men returned to Italy changed by experience. American abundance, efficiency, and humanity had transformed them. New standards of personal hygiene were carried home. Expectations of civic infrastructure were elevated permanently. Concepts of individual rights would influence reconstruction efforts. Many former prisoners became advocates for democratic governance. Support for NATO alliance was strengthened by their testimony. Promotion of American-Italian friendship became their mission. First-hand knowledge of American society provided credible evidence. Communist propaganda during Cold War years was effectively countered. They had lived in America and experienced reality. Work alongside Americans had been their daily experience. American values were known through practice rather than theory. The economic impact was equally significant and lasting. Prisoners who learned American industrial techniques brought valuable skills home. Agricultural methods were shared with Italian farmers everywhere. Business practices were introduced to Italian entrepreneurs. Some established import businesses connecting both countries. Italian and American companies benefited from these connections. Others introduced American innovations in various industries. Farming, manufacturing, and service sectors were all improved. Individual stories of transformation illuminate broader impacts clearly. Giuseppe Moretti had been a simple peasant farmer. His Sicilian origins hadn't prepared him for California agriculture. Modern techniques learned there revolutionized his family's farm completely. Mechanized farming replaced ancient manual methods. Soil conservation was introduced to prevent erosion. Crop rotation increased productivity dramatically over time. His family's economic status improved permanently through these changes. Francesco Bellacorte had worked as a stonemason in Rome. American construction techniques were mastered during military installation work. After repatriation, he established a successful construction company. War-damaged Italian cities needed rebuilding desperately. His American experience provided technical knowledge and business methods. Quality standards learned in America set him apart. Competitors couldn't match his efficiency or reliability. Antonio Ricci had been an artist imprisoned at Hereford. American art supplies and techniques influenced his development. His paintings of American landscapes were created during Captivity. American people were portrayed with understanding and respect. After repatriation, these works achieved recognition in galleries. European audiences appreciated this unique documentation of understanding. Cross-cultural cooperation during wartime had been captured perfectly. While Italian prisoners were transformed by American experience, influence worked both ways. American communities were also changed by their presence. Italian cuisine was introduced through prisoner cooks. Military kitchens and civilian establishments expanded American palates. Post-war popularity of Italian food was influenced significantly. Artistic traditions brought by prisoner craftsmen enriched American arts. Local artisans were influenced by European techniques and standards. Agricultural techniques shared by experienced Italian farmers improved yields. American farms benefited from centuries of European experience. Language instruction provided by educated prisoners was valuable. Americans were introduced to Italian culture and literature. Most significantly, the success of Italian prisoner programs influenced attitudes. Immigration policies were affected by positive experiences. Cultural diversity was viewed more favorably than before. International cooperation seemed more possible and beneficial. Communities that welcomed Italian prisoners became more receptive afterward. Post-war Italian immigrants found friendlier reception in these areas. Italian-American cultural organizations received more support from neighbors. The story of Italian prisoners in American camps reveals profound truths. Human nature and national character during wartime are illuminated clearly. At a time when hatred dominated global discourse, America chose differently. Dehumanization characterized other theaters of war everywhere. American authorities demonstrated that alternatives were possible. Strength and security could coexist with humanity. Dignity could be maintained even during captivity. The hot showers, clean facilities, and abundant food weren't just practical policies. Respectful treatment wasn't merely efficient administration. These were expressions of fundamental American values about worth. Human potential for redemption was acknowledged and nurtured. These policies proved that enemies could become friends. Appropriate treatment and genuine opportunity created cooperation from resistance. The transformation of Italian prisoners from defeated enemies was remarkable. Willing collaborators emerged from hostile captives. Eventual advocates developed from suspicious prisoners. This demonstrated the power of example over force. Generosity proved more effective than cruelty ever could. Hope overcame despair when given genuine opportunity. Their experience contradicted fascist propaganda about American society. Democratic values could inspire loyalty even among opponents. Today, few Americans remember these Italian prisoners clearly. They lived among civilian communities during World War II. The camps are gone without trace. Barracks were demolished long ago. Stories have been largely forgotten by newer generations. Yet the impact of this experience continues influencing relationships. Italian-American relations benefit from these connections still. Immigrant integration policies were shaped by these successes. Concepts of international humanitarian law were advanced significantly. The chapel at Hereford stands restored today. It sits in the middle of a Texas cornfield. This lonely monument commemorates extraordinary history. American and Italian cooperation during wartime is remembered there. Veterans organizations occasionally organize pilgrimages to former sites. Aging former prisoners meet with American families. Fond memories are shared across language barriers. In Italy, memoirs and documentaries preserve prisoner testimonies. New generations learn about this unique period. These accounts consistently emphasize more than material comfort. American captivity provided dignity and respect during vulnerability. Psychological impact exceeded physical benefits by far. The story of Italian prisoners reveals more than cultural differences. Material abundance was impressive, but not transformative alone. The power of treating people with dignity transcends circumstances. Such treatment isn't required during wartime captivity. It isn't expected by international conventions either. Yet it was provided consistently by American authorities. Those shocking hot showers became routine within weeks, but they represented something that never became ordinary. American commitment to human dignity transcended nationality completely. Ideology couldn't diminish this fundamental respect for humanity. Wartime hatred couldn't override basic decency and fairness. 51,000 Italian men entered American prison camps. They arrived as defeated enemies expecting harsh treatment. They left as friends, advocates, and bridges. Two nations became crucial allies in following decades. Their transformation began with simple hot water and soap. It encompassed fundamental changes in understanding democracy. Abundance and human possibility were revealed through daily experience. In a war defined by hatred and brutality, American treatment stood apart. Dehumanization characterized most wartime interactions everywhere else. Different choices were possible, as America proved conclusively. Men who expected degradation and abuse found alternatives. Opportunity, respect, and hope were offered instead. Their story reminds us that treatment of enemies reveals character. People and nations are defined by their choices. The hot showers have been turned off forever. Camps were dismantled decades ago. Prisoners were repatriated to rebuild Italy. But memory of their experience continues testifying. Choosing humanity over hatred remains possible always. Even in the darkest times, dignity can prevail. In those moments, under streams of hot water, transformation began. Italian prisoners washed away grime of defeat and despair. They discovered something more valuable than cleanliness alone. The possibility of redemption was revealed through kindness. Dignity was restored through respectful treatment. Hope was rekindled through genuine human connection. That discovery changed individual lives permanently and completely. But it also changed the course of history itself.